Okay, Shalom Aleichem. Freilich and Purim Katan for all those celebrating. And we're going to be continuing the Maamar on Nasiv Malka Pesiyata Deshmaya on section 6. Let me share the screen here. Alright, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So this is actually the end of section 6. I'm sorry, we're going to pick up at the end of section 6, going into section 7. So the end of section 6 was talking about, now we're getting into more the difference between Jews and non-Jews. Pretty much, the whole dichotomy that the Rebbe is explaining here is there are people who choose to worship idols, and he gives an analogy of the king with the officers, and people choose to bribe the officers because they think they could get something out of it. But the clever person will choose the king because he knows that the king can fire the officers at any point in time and they can change, but the king is the king. So if you really want to get anything done, you appease the king. He kind of argues with himself and says, well, if that's the train of thought, then what's the merit to that? That's just that's still logic, right? And so he goes into deeper mystical stuff about how the forces of evil and klipa, as it's called, of concealment, still get their life force from Hashem, and as such, you can still derive benefit from it, right? So you can still worship idols and still derive some benefit, get some benefit out of worshiping the idols, which is why people do it, right? If people didn't enjoy it or didn't derive any benefit, they wouldn't do it to begin with, right? So that's a real thing. Uh, but the difference is there are people, namely the Jewish people, who, because of the nature of their soul, desire to cleave to Hashem, because that's their nature. And it's actually the nature that changes their mind. So, in a very salient and revealed way, it's something that's obvious to them. In a Jew's mind, he's thinking like, well, I'm choosing Hashem, which is true. Every day you have to wake up and you say the Shema, and when you say the Shema, you accept upon yourself the kingship of Hashem and accept upon yourself the mitzvahs, and you have to choose to do that, right? You can also choose not to do that. But as the Rebbe is explaining, is it really comes from a part of the self, a part of the soul that transcends logic and reason, and ultimately their choice is determined not by their awareness of Hashem. It's not because they're smarter. It's not because they're, uh, more wise, or because they know so much about Torah, or they're like, deep, Kabbalists or anything. They can see God. Nothing like that. Like their awareness of Hashem in this world is, I guess I should say, third dimensionally speaking, their awareness of God is the same as anyone else, but the difference is they have this soul that desires to cleave to Hashem, and as such, that in effect like affects their decision making. So it's not so much logic, and he brings the proof. This is the last paragraph here of section 6. He explains that basically no right-minded person, no logical intellectual person will forego their own benefit, right? No one using logic and reason is gonna sacrifice any sort of benefit, or they're not going to sacrifice something they're getting out of the thing, like their idol worship, for example. If their idol worship is working out for them and they're getting a lot out of it, they're not going to want to, even if they know through logic and reason that the king is the better person to appease or serve, they're not going to do that, because by the officer you could just bribe them. You know what I mean? You can just do something, believe in them, whatever, be their friend, and they'll be your friend too. And like, it's kind of like that. But the king doesn't work like that. The king doesn't need you. The king doesn't need anything. The king has everything. The king owns everything. So like what are you going to give the king that he wants? Nothing. The only thing that you can give him is yourself and your service, really your commitment to his rulership, you know. And that's something that if you're coming to the game and you're asking yourself what's in it for me, you're not going to get that far. You're not going to go so far as to say like, oh well, I'll put aside all of my wants and desires or my idea of life or whatever just to be a servant of the king or just to be in the king's palace. Like using logic, you'll never get there. But what gets people there is the soul. You know, and this kind of explains the deeper aspect of the Torah. It says in Gemara, ger shenit ger, right? A convert who converts, not a goy who converts. And why is that? Because the convert was always Jewish. Like their soul was always a Jewish soul the whole time. It's just now it's coming down into a body, and now it's actually being materialized. But that was always held in potential. And so this kind of touches on why people would cross the river, so to speak. Like why people would do that at all. Because according to this Maamar, like there's no reason to do that. You know what I mean? And certainly, I mean, that's kind of the, I guess, like reaction I have gotten, and I'm sure other converts have gotten from Jews. It's like, you know, you're crazy. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're literally insane. Like, you don't want this. You don't want to be part of this. You know, like look at people are killing us all over the place, and it's like, yeah, well, it'd be like that. You know, like I don't know. Like, it just comes with the turf. So yeah, let's move on to section 7, and boom. All right. I hope that was a decent, what do you call it, summary of what we read. All right, let's see. Section 7. As mentioned above, the soul's choice of God stems from the essence of the soul, a level that transcends intellect. Perhaps one can add that when this choice is drawn down and has an effect on the intellect, it elevates the soul to a loftier rung than its natural inherent level. This can be understood by prefacing with a concept explained in the Maamar entitled Avadim Hayinu Leparo B'Mitzrayim in the Siddur Imdach. I don't know what Imdach is. Let's see what that is. It doesn't say anything. Okay, great. It says that the influence to those who transgress God's will is given incidentally, like one who throws what he gives over his shoulder. To explain by analogy, it is like a king who spares no expense in making a feast and celebration for his prominent officers and prestigious servants. Now, even lowly servants and maids found behind the millstones receive the leftovers from the feast, and even dogs feast on the bones that were discarded. Of course, the king had no intention of spending money on them. The leftovers they received and the leftovers from such a feast are indeed of great value, are given incidentally. Similarly, in the analog, those who violate God's will receive influence incidentally. It is given to them begrudgingly, like one who throws something over his shoulder, as explained there at length. Okay, I think this is a good time to, because he's drawing the dichotomy a little bit stronger now, but not just between Jews and non-Jews, but between people who follow Hashem's will and then people who don't. And this axis is perpendicular to the Jewish, non-Jewish axis. It's not the same thing. This is so important because the last section you might get from that. You might say, especially if you're not Jewish, you're watching this, you might say like, well, you know, if I don't have that soul, am I just kind of screwed? You know, no, like Chas Shalom. It's not a bad thing to not have that. All it means is that's not your role in this world. You know what I mean? That's not the job you have to do in this world. Because you can still, and I have not read this Maamar, as you can tell, but like I hope he goes into it. I hope the Rebbe goes into it. How you can still. It doesn't matter. Like this is nowadays. It's not saying Jew or non-Jew. It's saying people who like keep God's will or not. And if you're not Jewish, that means the 7 Noahide laws. But also, as I kind of, I think we talked about this way in the beginning, that the Noahide laws are logical. They're intellectual anyway, right? So it doesn't necessitate any sort of supernatural inclination to cleave to Hashem to keep the Noahide laws. You don't need that, right? So if the last section rubbed you the wrong way as a non-Jew, or you kind of like felt like, ah, well, am I getting the leftovers thrown over my shoulder? No, that's not. It's not what it means. And you know, the fact that there's a distinction is not, it's not putting you like in the doghouse or anything. It's just that's just the way it is. And in order to keep the Noahide laws, you just need to think about it. You know, understand that Hashem runs the world, and there are certain laws of the universe that we need to like obey, and certain laws of society. But that can be rationalized. But what can't be rationalized, and this is why, you know, when you look at the Torah law, the laws of the Torah, all the 613 commandments, a lot of them are not rational. A lot of them just really, it takes a special kind of soul to even come to do that, even come to accept the mitzvahs, and that's what makes Jews special. And as I've said many times, if you're interested, let me know. We can sign you up. It's not, we're not hiring or anything. We're not recruiting, but we're not going to turn you away either. If you're really interested. And again, if not, okay, then that's not your avoda. That's not your role in life. Don't worry about it. It just, do your thing. It's okay. All right. That's my legal disclaimer there. All right.
No, well, to sign up for what?
To be Jewish.
Oh,
Yeah, no, you're good, man.
oh, and I wanted to like help you out. Like I see like that's pretty good. I like it. Um, it's like everybody has two souls, right?
Well, Jews
And
anyway. Jews for sure have two souls. By non-Jews, it's,
yeah,
the way I'm learning it is non-Jews
yeah.
have for lack of a better term, an animal soul. But again,
Right.
like this
That's
is,
what I was gonna go to. Yeah.
yeah, this is not bad.
Everybody has two souls. But okay. So yeah, but you're right. Everyone has two souls. The good thing about when you're born a Jew, you come with the two of them awakened.
Yeah,
And because
exactly.
yes, we all have the animal soul. So the good thing is when you start getting closer and closer to Hashem, even for the Noahites and the non-Jews, is you must awaken the second soul. So once you awaken the second soul, you start to see that like Hashem's the truth.
Yeah.
Since we live in such an ignorant world, then you start getting closer and closer. Then that's when there's the process of converting. And
Yeah.
that's pretty much what Abraham Avinu and Sarai Menu tried to do all the time.
Right. Right.
And
Exactly.
Jethro, one of the greatest, most of the greatest Jews are always being converts.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. It's true.
You know what
And
I mean?
it's,
Because they come from such a dark place.
yeah.
When you come from such a dark place, you're shining. When you're gonna shine brighter.
Right, and but it's
And
important to
it's amazing.
remember that can only take place through conversion. Like, it, I'm not an expert on this because this is very deep and kabbalistic, but the way I'm learning it
Yeah,
is non-Jews only have an animal soul, which can still be elevated. Okay, like that's not the end all be all of it, and it still means you are obligated to keep the Noahide laws and everything, but
right.
that's your service. You know what I mean? So just
Right.
to say like, oh, I
Yeah, like
don't.
the police, if you don't know the law, you're still gonna go to jail if you do something wrong.
Right. Yeah. This is a
That's what
case
it
in
does.
which ignorance is not an excuse because
That doesn't make any sense.
it's not an excuse because the Noahide laws are kind of like self-evident. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
if you're breaking one of the Noahide laws, you have a problem already. Like, if you're eating live animals, I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean? If you're cheating on your wife, like, dude, like
also,
you're
that's true. That's true. Now, I wanted to tell you too. Like, there's a beautiful thing too because the holier like Hashem says, the big holy, like because I'm holy. Leviticus 19:2. So the more the godlier and the more holy you become, it's like you start and you create midos. You have to have your midos. So the more midos you make, is the less the less you, the more difficult to sin, and like something like that, like cheat on your wife or eat animals alive or stuff like that. So it's like the more godlier you become, so you start to become like, oh, I shouldn't look that way, so you go like that. So that's like you start to build the midos upon midos. It's like fences upon the fences,
Yeah.
and then that's the holier you become. So that's amazing, man.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Thank you for sharing that.
All right. Sorry. I was just thinking because I'm working as well. But yes.
Now it's a
So,
good word. Good
all right.
word. Thank you. Thank you.
Uh,
Yeah, it's
uh, so
it's
that's what.
it's very
That's
deep. It's a
it.
very deep thing. You know, any Noachides watching this, you know, this is something that you're gonna have to talk to your rabbi about for sure. It's very very deep, and but you know, don't be. And I think a good analogy is like, you know, just kind of take a detour right now. In Tanya, if you ever learned Tanya, I don't even know if that's appropriate for if you're Noachides, but you know, ask your local Orthodox rabbi. But in Tanya, there's the idea of three basic categories of people. There's a tzaddik, there's a Beinoni, and a rasha. A righteous person, an intermediate person, and a wicked person, respectively. But the one thing that I think that could be easy to get caught up on is the idea that a tzaddik is like better, like more important than the Beinoni, and it's not true. They just have different jobs. You know what I mean? And so like if already like in this space where we have a language, we have language of like righteous, not righteous, wicked. Like we have very like polarizing language. Even in there, we can acknowledge that it's not a matter of better or worse. It's a matter of different avoda. You know what I mean? Like for the tzaddik, for the righteous person who's completely righteous, who has completely transformed his animal soul to do Hashem's will, he doesn't have to wrestle with the evil inclination like a Beinoni does. But you know why he doesn't have to wrestle with that? Because that's not his job on earth. So in a similar way, like as a Noahide, if you were born not Jewish, you were born just with a human, like as a human being, like with an animal soul, then that's what you have to work with, and Hashem gave that to you, like to, you know, do your job, do your job here on earth, and it's not like, you know, if you feel it inside, you know, like I said, to convert, that's one thing, and if you don't, also that's amazing. That's kind of what the Maamar is saying, and I think now he's bringing up a different dichotomy of wicked people who actually transgress Hashem's will and people who follow Hashem's will. And in both these categories, there are Jews and non-Jews. That I make a long point very short. That's, you know, where I was going with that. Okay. Anyway, so to continue, says on the lowest level are the dogs. They do not serve the king. They are motivated solely by their own desire that material things be given to them, and that the giving should continue endlessly, enabling them to receive more and more, as it is written. The dogs are fiercely wanting. They know no satiation. This can be associated with the well-known concept that kelev, Hebrew for dog, can be associated with the phrase kulo lev, all heart. The inherent nature of a person and his innate tendency is that his mind rules over his heart. A person described with the analogy of a dog is the direct opposite. Not only does his mind not rule over his heart, he is all heart. All of his concerns are solely to fulfill the desires of his heart. That's self-explanatory. On a higher level, there are lowly servants. The servants and the maidservants that are found behind the millstones. They do serve the king. Nevertheless, they serve the king only out of compulsion, because they fear that otherwise they will be beaten. Serving the king runs contrary to their will and their pleasure, for a servant enjoys living without any restraints upon him. Since their desires and pleasures are directed to worldly matters, and the reason they do not violate God's will is only that they fear punishment, they are not worthy of sitting at the king's table. Oh man, this is getting crazy. There is like okay, I'm just gonna keep going. In contrast, the prestigious servants serve the king willingly. This is their desire. True, their service is primarily motivated by the acceptance of the king's yoke. As is well known, this constitutes the difference between the service of a son and of a servant. A son carries out the father's will because of his love, while a servant carries out the will of his master because he accepts the yoke. Nevertheless, a prestigious servant accepts the king's yoke willingly and with desire. In the analog, he desires to accept the yoke of the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, he is worthy of a place at the king's table. On a higher level than this are the king's officers. They know the conventions of the kingdom. For that reason, some of the matters of the kingdom are entrusted to their authority. They also comprehend the virtues of the king, and therefore they love him. Thus, their service is not motivated by the acceptance of the king's yoke alone. It also results from their love of him. The category of officers itself subdivides into several levels. In general, there are two levels: ordinary officers and prominent officers. It is possible to say that these three categories are found at the king's table. Prestigious servants, ordinary officers, and prominent officers correspond to the three types of officers: a duke, a prefect, and a commander, whom the above-mentioned midrash describes as accompanying the king. The description the midrash gives that they accompany the king is similar to the concept mentioned in the analogy, that the prestigious servants and officers sit at the king's table. On this basis, it is possible to offer a further insight concerning the midrash cited previously. The obvious analog to the duke, the prefect, and the commander are the 70 patron angels of Klipas Noga, as mentioned in the Maamar cited above. Okay. I was going to talk about this. Basically, these 70 patron angels of Klipas Noga are they correspond to the 70 nations, right? This is a very difficult connection for me to make for y'all, but this is kind of like why, maybe why/how non-Jews don't have a godly soul, because they're patron angels. Like, guys, this is all like not literal, obviously. You just like, this is the language of it, but like the patron angels come from Klipas Noga, which is still Klipa, and if you remember what Klipa is, it's a concealment for the light. It's like the shell of Hashem's eminence or revelation, like things that conceal Hashem's revelation, and the forces of Tuma, of impurity, as we were talking about it, that come from Makif, the force of Klipa comes from Makif, right? But there's a very special category of Klipa called Klipas Noga, and Klipas Noga means that it is Klipa, but it can be elevated or subjugated, I guess is a good word. Either way, like it's neutral, right? You can do either thing with it, right? And if that weren't true, then we wouldn't be able to accept converts, right? Because if human beings were just too far gone, then we wouldn't be able to accept them. But it's saying like, no, like even, a human being in all our faults and all our characteristics and whatever, like we're far from angels, but we still can be elevated, to a higher level of service. So hopefully he explains it. Nevertheless, the fact that the Midrash describes the Duke and everyone else as accompanying the king alludes to the concept that the analog refers not to the 70 patron angels who are characterized by Yeshus and possess an independent identity, like the lowly servants whose place is removed from the king's table, but also to the angels whose identity is subsumed in godliness, and on a higher level, to the spheres of Atzilus. I'm sorry, guys. This is... I don't know. About which is said, he and his life energy are one, and his causations are one. Entities that are at one with the king at all times. This is crazy, y'all. I'm sorry. Oh, man. I'm in trouble. Let's see. Let's continue. On the basis... How much time we got? I don't know, 10 minutes, I guess. On this basis, one can further comprehend the extent of the cleverness of the person who states, I will choose a king. Not only is he unwilling to receive influence, as do the dogs, or the lowly servants that are removed from the king's table, even though the influence granted to them is vast, but he wants to be present at the king's table. Moreover, he does not desire intermediaries like the duke. In the analog, the angels, the spheres of Atzilus, or the intermediaries on higher levels, He desires the king himself. I will choose the king. This can be illustrated by the well-known analogy of the Baal Shem Tov on the phrase, a prayer of a poor person when he languishes and pours out his soul before God. The poor person does not desire anything. His request is only that he be able to pour out his soul before God. Choosing the king rather than the intermediaries requires great wisdom, as in the analogy of a mortal king. In order to reach the throne room where the king is found and his countenance can be beheld, it is necessary to pass through numerous chambers, each containing fabulous treasures. There are people who will derive such wonderful pleasure from seeing the great treasures that are found in the outermost chamber, that they become transfixed and remain there. Others are transfixed by the pleasure they derive from the treasures found in an inner chamber. Only one who is very wise is unaffected by the magnitude and the value of the magnificent treasures that are found in even the innermost chambers, but instead focuses his will and his desires solely on entering the throne room where the king sits so that he can behold the king's countenance. Wow. I don't even know what to say about that, to be honest with y'all. It's geschmack to be a yid. I'm just going to say that. That's for sure. So what is the idea here? What is the Rebbe trying to drive home? That sometimes you can become right, because Hashem puts everything in your life for a reason, including the Avodah Zarah. And like we explained, you can partake in this Avodah Zarah and still derive some benefit. It could still kind of like work out for you. You like your church group because they're nice to you and they give you a sense of community, and they have free food all the time, and the guy Chris hooked you up with a new job and all this stuff. Like, okay, great. That's real. That's also coming from Hashem. But it's easy to get the language here is transfixed, which it's like you're gazing on the beautiful pictures and the statues and things that are in the king's chamber. It's like, yes, of course this all came from the king, but that's not why you're there. You're there so you can actually meet the king, right? And for a lot of people, they just kind of want to be there. They just kind of want to be there and enjoy the world, right? The treasures in the outer chambers are essentially the pleasures of the world. And again, like this can be a Jew or a non-Jew. To get to a certain point where you're like, no, I don't want to, not that right? You obviously have to partake in the pleasures of the world. Like, the world is a great place and there's a lot of cool stuff to do. But never ever forget that all comes from somewhere. And your life really shouldn't like revolve around just that, around just deriving benefit. Because at the end of the day, these are all officers that can be fired, right? These are all things that can go away. They're not infinite, right? But again, like the only way you can really make that jump into real like service, service to Hashem, or like sitting at the king's table, being like an officer, being that way, is you have to like it says in Pirkei Avos, you should cancel your will in front of his will so that cancel your will in front of his will so that his will become your will, if I'm not mistaken. What does that mean? It's like if you want, especially by a Jew it's more obvious, because a lot of our mitzvahs require you to just put aside your desires and just forget about it, and like not just like withhold yourself. It takes something above logic. Like you can't get there by logic, and that's pretty much what the Rebbe is saying right now. Because all logic, by all reasoning, you should just stick around, enjoy the free food, enjoy the pretty stuff, and die, and like pay your taxes. And but the Rebbe is saying, like, no, that's not the move. Like it's not the move at all. Like that's such a low level of existence, even for a non-Jew. Even for a non-Jew. Like I'm gonna keep saying that, but we only have like 10 minutes left. If y'all have any questions, any comments, anything else, I'm not gonna go into the next one because this is crazy. Any of the Kabbalah stuff, don't ask me about that. Don't ask me. What's up, David?
You say comments, right?
What's up?
If I can help, if I can comment something.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, also like you said, Kabbalah is really complicated, but like we all reincarnated in a handful of times since the beginning of time, because we are all part of Adam. Since Genesis 2:7, when he breathed into Adam, and we all split into all bunch of neshamas. We all come from Adam, from the beginning of time. So the reincarnations a handful of times is the process of reincarnating. You get to reincarnate on a lot of things, so it can actually like help Hashem the process of the creation. You get to be reincarnated as a woman, as a flower of fruit, a male boy or a male Jew, or anyone, right? But it's all about. That's why it's so important when we do like a bracha before we eat. Is because we bring in that food into the spiritual realm as well. So we bring it back, so they can come back into the next. So it's a perpetual. It's infinite.
Right.
Everything, just like Hashem created the seed. It's infinite. From the tree, it goes down, it purifies, and it grows back.
Yeah, and I think that highlights the special level of service that the Jew is privileged to do, because what do we say in when we do a mitzvah, right? We always say a bracha before we do a mitzvah, and every bracha that we say before we do a mitzvah says, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav. Like in English it says, who sanctifies us with his commandments. Why? Why is that?
Everything through the word.
Huh?
That Hashem created everything through the word.
No, you're thinking of shakol niyeh b'davaro. That's when you eat something. But I'm saying when you do a mitzvah, you say asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav.
Every bracha we make. That's what I tried to say. That yes, because that's part of Hesed. Like that's what I say. Like Psalms 89:3 says that Hashem created the world through Hesed, loving kindness, right? Instead of Geburah, which is punishment. We're rewarding punishment, but it's like because Hashem was going to create the world first through Geburah, which is reward, which is punishment. But he saw that the world will never exist if he created through that. But instead he created to Hesed, to loving kindness.
Right.
So even though if you're not a Jew, that's the beauty of it. Even though if you're not a Jew, if you're a boy, if you're born to it, or anything you're born into, you can be part of the creation as well.
Right.
Because if you just love and just like just help like if you wanna show love to Hashem, just help the neighbor.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Neighbor. That's why Hillel say, don't go as hateful to others and was hateful to you, and the rest is commentary.
Right. Yeah, and that's true by a non-Jew. That's absolutely true. I think this is kind of what the Rebbe is like touching on a little bit here, not so much because he's talking about wicked right now, but what makes the Jews service special is that we're actually turning our bodies into mitzvah objects, and that's what it means that Hashem makes us holy with His commandments, and that's something that distinguishes Jews from non-Jews, that at the end of the day, when we do mitzvahs, it's not because we feel like it. Like, yes, it might be fun. Shabbos is fun. Like, it's a good time and everything. And it's, you could say, mindfulness practices. But at the end of the day, we're doing these mitzvahs. And every time we say Asher Kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, like, we're acknowledging that the only reason we're different than non-Jews, the only reason, is because we're committing our bodily energy, our bodies, our physical bodies, to an elevation. We're elevating our physical bodies to do mitzvahs, and that's something that a non-Jew can't do. Why? Because they don't have those mitzvahs. Those mitzvahs don't exist.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. Like that's why we reincarnate all different kinds of forms, even as a woman, or as a male, or as a goy, as a Jew, as a fruit, as a flower. It's because we're, like you say, we're trying to elevate.
Yeah.
But we set up it like, but that's the other thing too in the Kabbalah. It's like Hashem doesn't want, like, we're trying to bring heaven down to earth so Hashem can come and live with us.
Right.
It's like we're not trying to bring it back to the spiritual. No, we're trying to bring everything in.
Right. That's nice that you say that, because last week.
This is the lowest world.
Right. Exactly.
The lowest world.
Yes, that's like Bashi Lagani. And last week was Parshas Truma, which is all about the Mishkan, the tabernacle, and what is the whole deal with the tabernacle? It's using worldly objects, gold, silver, wood, animal skins, like all these very like low world things, like physical things, and we're putting it all together in a very specific, orderly fashion with very detailed instructions. And through that, we can actually elevate all those things which really, didn't have much use before that, and we're putting it to use and putting it to godly service and elevating it to something that's supernatural. And again, like that's the difference here. It's kind of a gradient. It's not like so black and white, because like I said, there's like a perpendicular axis where there's like Jew and non-Jew, and then there's wicked and righteous, where you can be in any quadrant there. But yeah, I guess that I don't have too much time. But yeah, that's all I have to say. Yeah.
No, but you're right. Like so that's what I think too. It's like we create a kippah. Everyone has a kippah. So the more average we commit, the kippah is bigger.
Right.
So and only through the life of Torah we can actually break that kippah.
Right.
Into the mitzvahs, into the commandments.
Right.
Either as a goy, as a Noahide, you make those, or as a Jew. But everything is just to bring light to the world.
Right. Exactly.
Beautiful. It's really simple. But it's like we go into the intricacies of it. Because we're trying to understand.
Yeah, exactly. For sure. All right, yo. You have a Fralikan Purim Katan and a good Shabbos.
Yeah, you too. Happy Shabbos. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbos.